It's my joy to see your faces. You bring happiness to my heart. I want to tell you a story about a priest that came to a church. He was kind of the new pastor there. And some really interesting things were happening. Some people were being healed. There was a blind person. He touched the person and they could see. There was people that were really, really upset, and he spoke and they went at peace. And some people that were depressed, he said an encouraging word, and they were filled with hope. And they went telling their friends. It was just kind of amazing stuff. And crowds started to come to hear him. And there was kind of like two groups in the crowd. One was some of the churchgoers that thought they were really good. And they went to church every Sunday, and some of them went every day. And they said prayers every day, and they gave 1/10 of all their income to the church offering plate. So if they were making $50,000, they would put in $5,000 a year to the offering plate. And they thought, God was really pleased with them and they were great. But the other group was people that, some of them were prostitutes, some of them were drug addicts, and even some of the drug addicts were dealing drugs to people. And one or two of them was politicians, but they weren't the good politicians. They weren't liked at all. So this priest told them a story, and this was the story. He said there was a father had 2 sons. And one son came to his father and said, "Dad, give me my share of the inheritance." That's a big thing to ask. So the father went to the bank account, took out the share. He went to the bank manager and got a mortgage on his house. His house was paid off, and he took out a mortgage on a really big chunk of the house, which was his inheritance, plus the money from the bank, plus cashing in his stocks. And he gave all that money to his son. The son asked for the money, his dad gave it. And then the son went off to a distant land, and he started to party. He was just celebrate, people you meet, different kinds of drugs, women, just kinds of, and he spent all of his inheritance. And then there was a depression happened in the country, and there was no work. And the guy could only get one job cleaning out outhouses. It was a farm time, and they didn't have toilets. They had an outhouse. And the only job he could get was shoveling out what was in there. And that was his job. And he was only getting nickels an hour for work. And he said to himself, my dad has lots of things. He's got a farm, he looks after stuff. I'll go back as one of his servants. So he gets up and he traipses back, and his shoes are holes all in them. It's kind of like a piece of string wrapped around, tying them together. And it's just, his clothes are all worn out. He's got no food, no money. And his dad sees him while he's a long ways off. And his dad's kind of old and a bit rickety. But when he sees his son, he starts to run. Run like he could when he was a young lad playing soccer. And he was fast. He could just tear up the wing of the soccer field to get the ball. And it's like he's running as fast as he can to see his son. And he hugs him and kisses him and says, let's have a great party. And they do. They call all the friends, all the relatives, everybody. And he says, this son of mine was dead, but now he's alive again. This son of mine was lost, and now he's been found. Now it's another story about the older son. that's another story. And we can take from this a picture of what God is like. God is like that Father. And if we get lost, God welcomes us back. He will run to meet us and hug us. And if we have a brother that's gotten lost, God will welcome him back, and so should we. If we have bitterness to somebody in our family, let us choose to forgive them and find a new family with God at the center. Amen.
Amen.